Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Tuesday, the 15th of February. I'm Derek Clark. It's a full team this morning. I'm joined by Johnny McFarlane and Joshua Barry. How are we doing, lads?
Good, mate. Good.
Good.
Fantastic stuff. Excellent. Right, before we look at all the Rangers news, just about housekeeping, folks, if you're watching us on YouTube, so many of you are now, just hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss a video when we go live. And if you want to take advantage of the Rangers Review site, just head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe and support top quality journalism covering the club you love, just £2.99 a month. And also, if you head over to our Twitter account, we've got another fantastic Rangers shirt giveaway. An away shirt this time. Just head over to our account to find out the details. The winner will be drawn at random on Friday at 4 p.m. A fantastic competition that is. Okay, let's crack on with the news. Late last night, Rangers found out who they will face in the quarterfinals of the Scottish Cup. It will be Dundee away. Joshua, your reaction to that? Dundee, of course, beating Peterhead last night to progress to the last 8 of the competition. What's your feelings on the draw?
Well, they should win, shouldn't they? I was at Rangers Dundee earlier in the season, and it was one of the worst Rangers performances of the whole season. It was just not a great game from a Rangers persuasion. To my memory, I think Conor Goulton and Leon Balogun both had quite a few shaky moments. Joe Rebo obviously scored the goal, but yeah, not one of the finer wins from a quite turgid start of the season. But yeah, I mean, it offers a very viable route to the semi-finals, doesn't it? Rangers should win 100 times out of 100, but Dundee will have their own ambitions of getting to Hampden. So I'm sure that Gio will be very intent on winning a cup. And, you know, the league's a focus, but the Scottish Cup is really important this season as well. It's been way too long since Rangers lifted the Scottish Cup. So, yeah, looking forward to it and hopefully a better performance, as I say, than it was last time I trekked up to Dundee to watch Rangers.
Yeah, absolutely. Other news that sort of breaking this morning, Johnny, Stuart Robertson gave an interview to Sky Sports, which appeared initially last night. And one of the big takeaways from that is that there will be now an away allocation at the next 2 Old Firm games. Stuart Robertson says because of the COVID situation we had back in August, the 2 clubs got together, agreed that we wouldn't have away fans because we had red zones. We weren't sure what the situation was going to be for that period of time. So there will be away fans for the 2 games remaining. What's your feeling towards that? I think probably the majority of supporters on both sides, I imagine, would be in favour of this. What's your standing on it?
Yeah, I think you have to have fans of some sort in the ground. So I think having 800 is the right choice. Listen, I'm probably one of the few people who sort of you'll hear say this. I think Rangers have done the right thing, reducing the capacity down because of the situation with the season ticket holders. We've seen the same thing with, for example, Motherwell for Rangers and Celtic games. They don't move their season ticket holders because their season ticket holders don't like it. And for years, you had Rangers moving fans out of their seats that they paid for games against Celtic. And ultimately, I just think from a business point of view, and I would apply this to both clubs, you have to look after your bread and butter. The people who are wanting to pay for the games every week or every second week, as it were. But in terms of the 800, I think that's obviously you want away fans to be at the game. Absolutely, of course you do. So yeah, that's good, and I would have fully expected. They were obviously wanting parity with the previous game, given that Celtic didn't have anybody at Ibrox, and then vice versa. So now they can get back to having the fans back, and obviously that does add to the spectacle of the game. There's no doubt about it. But having said that, I don't think many people were complaining about the atmosphere at either game, were they? Let's be honest. I mean, the atmosphere was still terrific at both games. So, you know, let's just, it's not the biggest news in the world. And I would fully expect the atmosphere to be terrific at Old Firm game, regardless how many fans there are.
Yeah. I'd imagine it probably more likely be the 800 that Rangers allocated Celtic supporters just in that corner, like they do most clubs that come to Ibrox, I'd imagine. So that was it. The news coming out from Stuart Robertson. Johnny, I wanted to touch on another thing before we carry on. There's so many questions coming in, folks. We'll try and get to a lot of them shortly. You had a piece out on the website yesterday with regards to Fashion Sakala. It generated a wee bit of noise because you likened him in terms of becoming a fan's favourite to Joey Garner. He's certainly winning the hearts, but you said it's time for him to now win over the minds of the Rangers supporters. Can you expand on your piece yesterday?
Yeah, I want to clarify that because a lot of people saw the headline and jumped to the conclusion that I was comparing Joey Garner as a player to Fashion Sakala, which I absolutely was not. What I was saying was Joey Garner managed to make himself a fan favourite without having really produced much on the pitch. And Fashion Sakala, in my view, while he's been absolutely fine, has done that too. Now, he's done that because of force of personality. He's a lovely, bubbly guy. He works his backside off. So immediately the crowd to respond to him. It's not a criticism of the crowd either. I like Fashion Sakala quite a lot as well. But what I'm saying is, there's two things that I'm saying. Number one, I think Fashion Sakala deserves more of a chance, like a proper 3 or 4 games to actually get himself up to speed so we can judge what he's actually good at, if he's good enough to maintain a place. But secondly, I also think at Rangers, nothing is given to you because you're a nice guy, because you work hard. That's not enough. You need to go and grab it and show your quality. Now, he's got 8 goals and 2 assists in 31 appearances. That's okay. It's not bad. You know, only I think it's 11 starts he's made, so 8 goals and 2 assists and 11 starts. That looks a bit better all of a sudden. But I feel like if you want to be a Rangers player, you have to do a bit more than he's doing. If you want to be a big hit as a Rangers player, he's not young. He's 24, and I really like him. But that right flank position has been open for the whole season, and he's not seized it. Now Amad Diallo's there as well. I think the jury's out. I like him, but I'd like to see him, as I say in the piece, he's won the hearts, go and win the minds and actually make yourself a first-team regular. Yeah, Josh is probably going to come and hit me like a ton of bricks for all that. Come on, Josh.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, Josh, what's your feelings towards that? James Glasgow obviously gets in touch there, says he's more of a goal threat than Kent. Can't disagree with him there. I think Kent's only scored, twice this season or something like that. Sakala's numbers are pretty decent with the minutes he's had on the pitch. Where do you stand on the Sakala debate?
I just don't think he's as good as Kent. I don't think that's Ryan Kent's favoured position, isn't it? All his football has come there this season. You're not going to move him for Sakala. The wide right question, you've seen at Hearts, I think the good and the bad of it. You've seen for the second goal in particular, and whenever Sakala plays on the right, he is so quick and he can go round players, and that buys him a yard. You've seen him go inside as well. In the game against Motherwell, where he scored his hat-trick, he played the final 10 minutes off the right side to good effect as well. But the difficulty is, I think, I don't think he gives you enough in terms of if you want to build play at all with your wingers, because that's not his game. His game, probably the best area for him to play is that coming in off the left side, which is where Ryan Kent plays. So I agree with Johnny in terms of, he's hardly had a run of games. You look at the impact he makes off the bench. As a squad addition, he's been excellent. He's a profile of player that I don't think Rangers really had before. His pressure numbers are excellent as well. And in certain fixtures, I think you really see the benefit of him. Maybe there is a way to accommodate both him and Kent in the team, but I don't see the right side as being a natural fit necessarily for the team. The issue, if Amad does not nail down that right side, then you might just see the rotation continue as it has done throughout the season. I mean, even since the winter break, we've seen Scott Wright play there, Fashion Sakala, Amad, Arfield. But there's still not that player that's been able to do it consistently. You've also got the argument that, are you better to, is it worth developing Amad while you've got Sakala on the bench, but then everyone wants to win the title? That's the main priority, and that's why Ramsey and Amad have been brought in to make an impact in the second half of the season. So I agree with Johnny in terms of he deserves a run of games. I think his impact's been pretty good, but also, taking that next step to be someone who is considered, winning the minds considered, that needs to be in that team. He needs to do it consistently and probably in a position that he isn't as comfortable with, in which is the right wing, because he's certainly not, taking the place of Alfredo Morelos. And whether hypothetically, if Ryan Kent went in the summer, could you see Fashion Sakala taking that position over? I think there's still elements of his game you see are quite raw, but again, to go back to that point, you've not seen it consistently enough, so it's probably not fair to say he couldn't do this, he couldn't do that, without seeing him play 3-4 games in a row from his favoured position at Rangers.
Yeah, but there's a comment came in there, Johnny, about Ryan Kent's numbers, and they haven't been where they should be for a player of his quality. It's all right saying Ryan Kent's a better all-round player than Fashion Sakala, but Kent is someone that does have to, especially with the title running being as close as it is, his conversion rate has to increase, doesn't it, if Rangers want to win the title?
I mean, Ryan Kent has got the quality to help decide this title. That's a fact.
Yeah.
The problem I've always felt with Ryan Kent is that he's a player that is naturally suited, and I was having this debate on Twitter last night, to a counter-attacking team, because he's absolutely terrific in the big games for Rangers. Okay, he wasn't in the, to be fair, he wasn't in the last big game, but generally across his career, Europe, Celtic games, he's always done really well. And those are the games where there's pace in behind the space in behind for his pace.
Easy for you to
that's
say.
when he can really get into those positions and cause teams problems. It means that his trickery allows him to get into situations where he can burst into dangerous areas. And in Scotland, in the day-to-day, that doesn't really exist, because teams play with 10 men behind the ball and low blocks. And Kent often finds himself with 2 or 3 players to beat. Now, listen, you can apply that to any attacking player in the Rangers team, but some players have a skill set that allows them to do better in that kind of scenario. Someone with a terrific shot, for example, someone with the ability to pick out a pass. Those kind of players tend to do well against the low block. Ryan Kent is a dribbler, that's fine, and he can get himself up against 2 players. Then you've got to fancy his chances, but often it's a lot more than that. I think Ryan Kent, if he went into the English Premier League, would do terrifically well. Honestly, I really do, especially if he was playing on a team that wasn't completely ball dominant. I think
he would excel in that Leeds United side. I'm telling you now, he would be brilliant for them.
I totally agree with you, Derek. Aston Villa, Leeds United, those type of teams, absolutely no problem at all. Ryan Kent go down there. Out of every player on Rangers squad, he's the one player that I would just say, no, that's a banker from a recruitment point of view for them. But he's not been the Ryan Kent that we know he can be this season. There's no doubt about it. Maybe it's a season too far. Maybe the ideal time to have dealt with a transfer for Ryan Kent would have been in the summer. But we don't know how much business there was done in terms of offers coming in for Kent. Perhaps no one was interested. Nothing came to fruition. No leads came in previously, but I think they've signed a lot of players in the last wee while and spent a significant amount of money. So we'll see what it takes Rangers in the summer. But I don't think Ryan Kent is going to be there till the end of his contract. You have to imagine that he'll leave, and the club and Kent will be happy about that at the end of the season, because it means obviously Rangers will be able to bring in a good transfer fee for him. And the player, to me, just looks like perhaps he's on this sort of downward slope of his Rangers career a little bit. I don't know, maybe that's unfair. Maybe it's just a form situation. But sometimes with a player, you just feel like maybe they're not quite 100% there. And I get that feeling from Kent this season.
Yeah, it's an interesting point from CGM55 here. That, he says that the players like Kent and Ruth Hadji, of course, is out injured. Numbers this season are miles behind what they produced last season.
Yeah.
I know Giovanni Van Bronckhorst said recently we can't keep looking back to last season, Joshua. It's the here and now they need to concentrate on. But they need more from, especially the likes of Kent and Ruth Hadji. Aside, of course, he's out injured. But Kent and Ruth, you feel that they could have a big part to play with regards to the title run. And I know that Alfredo Morelos, it's his jersey, and he plays. He's one of the first names in the team sheet, of course. But when you bring in the likes of Ruth, as we've seen on Saturday night, he has to deliver he has to deliver more, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, Roof's played less minutes. I guess you'd counter that with Hadji. Definitely his numbers weren't as good, and his underlying numbers, I think off the top of my head, did about halved in terms of his creative numbers. You've also got different players, I guess, a Sakala in there who has scored a few goals, which you have to add in probably in place of some of Roof's minutes. I think just on Kent, I think you have seen under Van Bronckhorst him look better in two scenarios. Firstly, when there is space, so Hearts away, Hearts at home, both of those games I thought he was really impactful. And the reason he was impactful, if you cast your mind back to the cross for the first goal at Tynecastle and his two assists at home at last weekend, is that he simplifies his game, and that's what I think Van Bronckhorst has started to do with Kent. How many times under Gerrard did we see Kent chop back and then chop back and chop back? And I think he needed a coach that was going to come in and simplify his game, and also positionally. I think the game that springs to mind was the 2-0 win at home over St Johnstone, which isn't the most glamorous of games, admittedly, but also at home to Hibs as well. You see for the penalty, Rangers trying to isolate him and creating the overload on the right side against Hibs. It was Arfield, Kamara, Morelos, and Tavernier, I think, and then trying to, I think, isolate Kent and Aribo on the left. And I've been thinking as well about the position of Aribo. Why have Rangers moved him over to accommodate Arfield in those games? But I think it is with a view of doing that, of trying to progress play down the right and then switch it quickly to the left, which obviously worked for the penalty. So, his numbers haven't been good enough. He probably should have scored a goal in each game against Hearts and Hibs, and then the conversation maybe is a little bit different if those shots go just a little bit inside the post instead of outside it. But I guess that's the fine margins that define football, isn't it? But I do think the kind of simplification of his game under Van Bronckhorst in terms of beating your man and then putting a cross in, because he's a 2-foot player, he's excellent one-on-one and he's quick, so he's gonna have success. And I think because as well he is attacking at times from the less congested areas instead of picking the ball up in the middle with his back to goal, which at the start of the season was so frustrating, because although it sometimes puts him in more valuable areas, it also allows him to be crowded out. After 4 years, probably it would be the right time, I think, for his career as well, if he wants to go and play elsewhere. And the squad needs refreshed, that's again a separate conversation, but you do need to refresh the squad at certain times. You just hope that Kent can kind of recover the form they showed at the end of last season, because that's the quality he has, and as Johnny says, he 100% has the quality to impact the title race in a significant way.
Yeah,
Derek, just on that, I think Josh is spot on about simplification of his game. Everyone will remember, well, everyone over a certain age, because I say everyone now, but I'm forgetting that I'm so old. But people will remember Barry Ferguson in his second spell at Rangers, by far still the best player at the club. But what happened was, for me, Barry was trying to do about 5 or 6 roles in the team, in the midfield. He was an absolutely splendid defensive midfield player who could orchestrate a game and dictate tempo from the base of the pitch. But as time went on, he'd adapted his game to become box to box, because that's what Rangers needed, and he was good there. And when he came back in the sort of second spell towards the end of it, he was kind of just doing everything. Kenny Miller had this about him as well, because he knew he was kind of the team's best player at the time, and he sort of had his own position, which was just everywhere. And Barry Ferguson was like that. I think there's an element of that to Ryan Kent, where he is the team's best player. Everyone knows it, so he's desperate to show how good he is and affect the game. But actually, what you're saying is 100% spot on. It makes you less effective, and he'd be better just concentrating on just doing what he's good at and focusing on that area, and not trying to be Diego Maradona and controlling things.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up Barry Ferguson, Johnny, because there's a comment come in from John Dooley. I know you'll love this question. Do you guys think there could be a role for Barry Ferguson at Rangers? Of course, left his managerial role at Alloa yesterday, resigned after a poor run of results. It has led to the obvious calls from certain quarters that Rangers should be looking to bring him in as that Scottish coach, if you like, to help the backroom staff. Where do you sit on that? I'd like to get your thoughts on that, Johnny.
Yeah, I'll try and articulate this as fairly as I can. I've interviewed Barry Ferguson. I like Barry Ferguson. He's a lot more articulate and intelligent than a lot of people give him credit for. He's a really knowledgeable guy about football. He's really, really passionate, which I think is one of his best traits. and he understands what a Ranger is all about. But I think Rangers are past the situation as a club where ex-players get jobs because of their personality and the fact they're well-liked ex-players. For me, I think Rangers need to be going after best in class.
Yes.
And if that's sports science, if it's coaching, if it's the medical department, that's what they need to be doing. And as much as I think everyone respects Barry Ferguson, and a lot of people like Barry Ferguson, justifiably, given he's a treble-winning captain, and I mean, he was absolutely, I could wax lyrical for hours about how good Barry Ferguson was in the Dick Advocaat era. At the same time, you look at his coaching records, you know, at Clyde, it was pretty ho-hum, it was pretty average. Alloa, it hasn't worked out. I thought he was really articulate again, talking about why it didn't work out, and extremely honest when he talked about it last night on Go Radio. But in terms of a coaching capacity on the first team, I think these are players that are used to Michael Beale, who is best in class in terms of what Rangers could get. Rangers have now got Dave Voss. If you look at his track records, you know, we could talk about Michael Beale because a lot of people had said in testimony how good he was as well. We've still to hear that about Dave Voss, but in terms of his CV and his track record, really, really, really good.
Yeah.
I don't think Barry has that level of coaching track record behind him to say you can just go into the Rangers first team. I really don't. Totally different story if you're talking about a role within the academy where there is an element of there needing to be an understanding about what makes a Rangers player from a mentality point of view, and that might be completely different, but I still apply the same best in class element to it. You know, you still need to think about that, but I think it's less complex down there because Barry does have a lot of experience as a player and as a coach. But I hope I've articulated that properly because I certainly don't want to be disrespectful to Barry.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do feel like there has to be a realism now about where Rangers want to go as a club under Ross Wilson, and that needs to be understood.
Yeah, I totally agree. Going into Ernie's stripes, and he done well at Kelty as well, of course. And I think it'll be good for Barry to get another job down there and sort of cut his teeth, if you like, and learn his trade before he is considered for a role at Rangers. I think that'll do us there. Thanks to everyone, as ever, for getting in touch with the programme. It really is much appreciated. Apologies if we couldn't get to your questions. We'll be back tomorrow, of course, as the build-up begins to that Europa League game against Borussia Dortmund on Thursday night. In the meantime, if you're watching us on YouTube, just hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss a video when we go live. If you want to take advantage of the Rangers Review site, just head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe, just £2.99 a month. And also, if you head over to our Twitter account as well, we've got a great competition on where you can win an away jersey. The winner is drawn at 4 p.m. on Friday, so head over there and find out the details on how to get involved. Okay, we'll be back again tomorrow, but until then, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.